She says she loves you, and she means it, until the love you give her stops making her feel something. Then she begins to test, slowly, silently, beautifully. She doesn't set out to wound you, she wants to feel your edge again. The part of you that once made her tremble, the danger that told her she was safe in your control. When that edge dulls, she pushes, provokes, withdraws, not out of hate but instinct. The feminine doesn't destroy men she despises, she destroys the men she needs to feel alive. The man she can't move, she can't love, the one she can move too easily, she can't respect. So she plays with the space between tenderness and pain, love and chaos, until she finds out who you really are. And in that discovery, she wounds you, not to break you, but to see if there's still something wild beneath your calm. Because for her to trust your love, she must first taste your power. Section 1. The beautiful wound. She never intends to destroy him, she simply tests the strength of the man she loves until he becomes unrecognizable. Every man remembers the beginning, the intoxicating calm of her affection, the softness that makes him believe he's finally safe. Her eyes speak in worship, her touch feels like truth. She studies him, memorizes his confidence, his tone, his dominance, then falls for the fire she can't control. But the same fire that draws her also terrifies her. The feminine instinct both craves masculine power and fears its potential to wound. So when she feels herself surrendering too deeply, her subconscious begins to test the flame, not to kill it, but to measure its heat. The beautiful wound begins here. She creates small disruptions, subtle criticism, emotional withdrawal, teasing rebellion. Each act is a probe. Are you still strong? Can I still trust your command? When you fail the test, when you plead, justify, over-explain, she feels disappointment she can't name. It's not cruelty, it's nature searching for polarity. And yet, that search cuts deep, because every man trained to equate love with peace sees her storm as rejection instead of proof of attraction. He tries to calm her, fix her, appease her, not realizing that her chaos isn't a problem to solve but a signal to stand firm. The wound she gives you isn't meant to destroy, it's meant to awaken. But if you meet it with fear, it becomes fatal, a slow death of masculine presence disguised as emotional maturity. She doesn't want you to avoid her storms, she wants you to withstand them, to show her that the man she chose can't be broken by the woman who loves him. Because in her chaos, she's not trying to hurt you, she's trying to find where your strength truly begins. Section 2. Love as possession. When a woman fears losing a man she admires, she unconsciously begins to control him, trading admiration for ownership. In the beginning, she falls for your freedom, your focus, your certainty, your indifference to her validation. That's what draws her in. A man unowned by emotion, a man whose world doesn't revolve around her. His distance feels like power, his attention feels like a prize, but love awakens fear, the fear of losing what she finally respects. And the feminine, when afraid, doesn't attack, she binds. She begins to soften your edges in the name of love. Don't work so much, be more open. I just want us to be closer. Her words sound tender, but underneath them lives the instinct to possess. What she calls closeness often means control. She wants to feel safe, but safety to the feminine means predictability, and predictability kills desire. So she unconsciously begins reshaping you into something stable, gentle, domesticated. The wildness that once turned her on now threatens her security. You comply thinking it's love, you listen, compromise, adjust, but each concession drains the mystery that made her fall. Slowly you become the man she wanted to feel safe with, not the man she craved. She doesn't see this happening. It's instinct, nature trying to cage what it can't control, and yet once the cage is built, she's the first to resent it. The more she owns you, the less she feels you. Love, when mixed with fear, always becomes possession. And the tragedy is that she only tries to control the man she loves, because his unpredictability reminds her of how deeply she could lose herself. But once she succeeds, she loses him anyway, not to another woman, but to the death of his masculine soul. Section 3. The emotional mirror. The feminine reflects his unhealed insecurities back at him, not to punish him, but to force evolution, though it often feels like cruelty. A woman doesn't need to read your mind, she feels it. She senses hesitation in your tone, weakness in your conviction, guilt in your silence. Her intuition moves faster than your logic, and when she feels dissonance between your words and your energy, she reacts, not consciously, instinctively. She becomes your mirror. Every insecurity you bury, she embodies. Every doubt you hide, she magnifies. You suppress anger, she grows chaotic. You fear rejection, she withdraws affection. You lose direction, she becomes defiant. What you refuse to confront within yourself, she will perform in front of you until you either evolve or collapse. Most men mistake this for manipulation. They call her emotional, unstable, impossible to please. But her volatility is feedback, raw data from the feminine intelligence that exposes the weakness the world cannot see. When you meet her emotion with irritation or defensiveness, you break the mirror and lose the chance to grow. When you meet it with calm authority, with presence, her chaos dissolves, because deep down she doesn't want control, she wants containment. The man who masters this dynamic stops personalizing her storms. He sees that she's not trying to destroy him, she's trying to test the structure that protects her. Her emotional volatility isn't random, it's the natural response to masculine inconsistency. The stronger her emotion, the deeper the reflection. Most men crumble here, misreading her tests as betrayal instead of invitation. But the awakened man understands. The feminine doesn't mirror weakness to shame you. She mirrors it to sharpen you, until she can finally feel safe in the power she once doubted. Because when she stops challenging you, it's not peace, it's resignation. Section 4. The power struggle. When polarity collapses, she challenges his authority, not because she wants to lead, but because she's testing whether he still can. The feminine doesn't crave control, she craves to trust control. But when she stops feeling a man's strength, her instincts awaken in the most primal way. She begins to test the structure, press the walls, shake the frame. Not to dominate, but to feel. It begins subtly. She questions your decisions, corrects your tone, challenges your certainty in public. These aren't random acts of defiance, they're instinctual probes. She's asking one question, again and again. Can you handle me? If you meet that challenge with weakness, with anger, withdrawal or justification, she feels unsafe. If you try to reassert dominance through ego or force, she resists harder. Because she doesn't want domination, she wants leadership. The difference is everything. A man who leads doesn't need to overpower, he directs. His authority is quiet, unreactive, immovable. His energy doesn't rise to meet hers, it grounds it. And when she feels that stability, her challenge melts into trust. But most men, conditioned to avoid conflict, confuse peace with safety. They try to fix her emotions instead of commanding the moment. And so the power struggle grows, not because she wants control, but because she can't feel yours. Every time she wins a small battle, she loses respect. And every time you retreat, you teach her that she must carry what you've dropped. The tragedy is that she doesn't even want the throne, she just needs to know that you can keep it. The power struggle isn't about her rebellion, it's about your abdication. And until you reclaim your authority, not through words but through presence, she will keep testing, not out of hate, but out of instinct. Because a woman only fights for control when she stops feeling protected by yours. Section 5. The manipulation of guilt. She learns that guilt controls men more effectively than beauty, and uses empathy as a leash to keep his dominance tamed. When beauty stops working, she reaches for something stronger, guilt. Not because she's evil, but because she's losing influence. When admiration fades, control replaces connection, and guilt, soft, invisible, moral, becomes her sharpest weapon. She doesn't command you to change, she suggests you should. She questions your tone, your priorities, your masculine focus. Why are you always so distant? Why can't you just listen? Why do you have to make everything about control? Each phrase is designed to pull you inward, away from mission, towards submission. The irony is that she doesn't even know she's doing it. The feminine fears abandonment more than anything. Guilt is her way of tethering you emotionally, of softening your edges so you won't leave. But what she doesn't realize is that every time you yield to that guilt, you erode the very presence she fell in love with. Men are especially vulnerable here because they crave harmony. They want to protect, to please, to fix. Guilt exploits that instinct. It makes you apologize for your nature, for your ambition, for your indifference to her moods. And the more you apologize, the more she loses desire, because the man who can be emotionally blackmailed cannot be trusted to lead. Her guilt tests the integrity of your frame. If you collapse, she feels momentary power but deep insecurity. If you hold steady, not defensive, not dismissive, just grounded, she feels something else. Safety. Understand this. When a woman uses guilt, she's not hunting dominance. She's begging for direction, but she can't ask directly. Her nature demands you prove it. The man who bows to guilt loses her respect. The man who meets it with calm strength rekindles her attraction. Because guilt can only control the man who doubts his own worth. Section 6. The withdrawal game. When her words fail, she retreats, sexually, emotionally, spiritually, watching how quickly he breaks the silence to prove his devotion. When a woman feels unseen, she doesn't always argue. Sometimes she disappears, slowly, strategically, beautifully, not out of indifference, but power. Because silence to the feminine is control disguised as pain. You'll feel it before you understand it. The warmth fades, her tone flattens, the laughter stops coming easily. Sex becomes rare, then mechanical, then conditional. She won't explain why, she doesn't need to. Her absence speaks louder than confrontation ever could. This is the withdrawal game, a subconscious test of your strength. She wants to know what kind of man you are when she withholds what you crave most. Her affection, her attention, her approval. Most men panic, they chase, overtext, apologize for crimes they didn't commit. They try to fix her mood, buy her gifts, beg for reassurance. Each act of pursuit feeds her control. The moment you chase, she wins and loses respect simultaneously, because she doesn't actually want you to collapse. She wants to feel your gravity again, that steady, unshaken masculine energy that doesn't beg, doesn't fold, doesn't flinch. When she withdraws, she's saying, "Show me that your peace doesn't depend on me." And if you can hold that silence, not coldly but calmly, she will return, not because you forced her to, but because your self-possession reawakened her trust. Withdrawal is the feminine's way of recalibrating polarity. It's both a weapon and a prayer, a plea for strength disguised as punishment. If you react, you confirm her fear. If you remain still, you restore her desire, because a woman only stops chasing when she knows she can move you. The moment she realizes she can't, she starts chasing again. Section 7. The breaking point. He either collapses under her emotional volatility or reclaims his masculine center, transforming pain into power. Every relationship has a threshold, the moment where illusion dies and truth takes the throne. That moment is the breaking point. It's where her love stops feeling like comfort and starts feeling like combat. You'll know it when it comes. The arguments feel circular. Her words cut deeper than they should. You begin to feel smaller around her, not because she's cruel, but because you've shrunk. She mirrors back the weakness you tried to hide, and it enrages you. You start defending yourself instead of leading, explaining instead of deciding, reacting instead of commanding. This is where most men lose the war, not because she's too emotional, but because he's too fragile. He mistakes her chaos for cruelty, when it's actually the universe demanding his transformation. The feminine storms only to test the structure of the masculine. If it holds, she surrenders. If it cracks, she conquers. At the breaking point, a man must decide, collapse or evolve. Collapse looks like bitterness, shutting down, withdrawing, turning love into resentment. Evolution looks like sovereignty, standing calm in the fire, feeling every emotion but obeying none. When she sees that, when you stay centered through her storms, neither appeasing nor attacking, something ancient happens. The fight stops, the air shifts, her resistance dissolves into trust. She doesn't need you to be perfect. She needs to feel that you can't be destroyed. The breaking point isn't the end of the relationship, it's the end of illusion, the birth of polarity reborn in truth. Because only when she's tested your limits will she finally believe in your strength. And only when you stop fearing her chaos will you begin to master your own. Section 8. The feminine paradox. She hurts him most when she loves him most, because true intimacy terrifies the part of her that craves freedom and fears submission. The feminine lives in contradiction. She wants depth, but fears drowning. She wants to surrender, but only to a man strong enough to handle her storm. And when she finally meets that man, the one who awakens both her desire and her fear, she begins to fight the very thing she asked for. She hurts him not out of malice, but survival. Because to fully love him means losing control, and the feminine's greatest fear is being consumed. So she resists him, tests him, challenges him, not to reject love, but to protect her identity from dissolving inside it. Her cruelty often appears when intimacy is deepest. The moment she feels truly seen, she'll sabotage it through distance, doubt, or drama, because vulnerability, to her, feels like death. The stronger the connection, the stronger her instinct to pull away. Most men misunderstand this and retaliate. They match her chaos with anger or retreat into silence. But the man who understands the paradox doesn't fight her resistance. He stays grounded inside it. He knows her emotional warfare is not hatred. It's fear disguised as fire. When she feels that she can't shake his frame, that his calm doesn't collapse beneath her tests, her fear transforms into trust. Her resistance becomes surrender, because the feminine doesn't truly want to dominate the man she loves. She wants to feel his strength enough to let go. Her love wounds because it's real, because it touches the place in her that must die for intimacy to be born. And the man who survives that fire doesn't resent it. He understands that her pain was the price of her devotion. Section 9. The return to power. He stops reacting, stops chasing, and learns to love her without losing himself, becoming the grounded force she both fears and needs. After the chaos, strange stillness arrives. The war is over, but something inside you has changed. You no longer need her affection to feel alive. You no longer beg for validation, explanations, or softness. The storm burned the weakness out of you. What remains is presence, quiet and immovable. This is the return to power. Not dominance, not control, the center. You lead without forcing, you love without chasing, you touch without asking. Your calm becomes her gravity again. Your silence her mirror. The same woman who once tested every boundary now softens in your presence, because she finally feels what she'd been unconsciously searching for all along, your stability. You don't punish her for the pain she caused. You understand it. You see the instinct behind her cruelty, the fear beneath her rebellion. Her resistance wasn't rejection, it was attraction trying to remember how to trust a betrayal. When you stop fighting her nature, you start commanding it, because the masculine doesn't conquer the feminine through control, it conquers through containment, the strength to hold her emotion without being swallowed by it. Now, you move differently. Your love no longer bends, it defines. Your words are few, your gaze decisive, your boundaries firm. She feels it, and in that strength, her chaos finds rest. The return to power isn't about defeating her. It's about mastering yourself so completely that no woman, no emotion, no betrayal can shake your frame again. You've passed through the fire and emerged untamed. Now, you love her from sovereignty, not need, and that's the kind of love she can finally surrender to. Every man who has truly loved has bled, because to love a woman deeply is to expose every fracture in your foundation, every insecurity, every hidden weakness. She doesn't cause those wounds, she reveals them, and when you mistake that revelation for betrayal, you miss the gift. The pain she gives you isn't punishment, it's initiation. Through her tests, you learned where you collapse. Through her silence, you discovered where you cling. Through her cruelty, you met the parts of yourself that were still begging for approval. And once you face those parts, once you stop needing to be understood, desired, or validated, something powerful happens. You become whole. You stop chasing harmony and start embodying it. You stop demanding loyalty and start commanding it. The unbreakable man doesn't control women. He calibrates himself. His power is not loud, it's felt. He is the calm that ends her storms, the structure that makes her surrender possible. She can love him or leave him. It no longer matters, because his peace no longer lives in her reaction, it lives in his discipline. That is what she was trying to awaken all along. Not the man who conquers her, but the one who cannot be conquered. The one who burns with purpose, not approval. The one who is finally free.